Yo, so I have another video for you guys, and this is about Southport. So, Southport killer taxi driver admits he went into panic mode and sped away from the massacre despite hearing screams, then picked up another fare. I'm not laughing at the whole thing about the kids dying. I'm laughing about this man's lazy excuses for just being a coward. Let's read on. The taxi driver who took the Southport killer to the dance class where he murdered 3 young girls today admitted he had driven away despite hearing an awful orchestra of blood-curdling screams and seeing children fleeing in a stampede for their lives. What type of grown-ass man sees this and decides to drive off? Look, you're in a metal vehicle, you're in a car, lock the doors, take your phone out and ring the police. From perspective, if you was that scared. Gary Polden heard 4 or 5 loud bangs after dropping off Axel Rudacabana, 17, and claimed he fled in complete mortal terror and shock because he feared he had guns and was shooting people. This guy's lying through his teeth. This guy had a knife on him. Since when did a knife suddenly just transform into a gun? So what were the bangs then? What could have been the bangs? I think he's just making this up. The 56-year-old had picked up the teenager and then taken him to the heart space where the 26 young girls were enjoying a Taylor Swift themed holiday club on the morning of July 29th last year. But although Mr. Poland saw children fleeing the building and screaming in terror in his rear view mirror, he did not stop to help. What a coward. What an absolute coward. Instead, he sped away in his taxi. He sped away in a metal vehicle. He could have run the guy down and killed him. He would have been a hero. But he sped away. Called his best friend twice and took another fare before going home and finally dialed 999 almost an hour later. There's nothing in this man's mind that makes any sense. Everything makes no sense. I don't even know I can't compute how this guy's mind process was working. Where you can see kids fleeing. I only think maybe I'm trying to make an excuse for him. Fight or flight or panic mode. I'm thinking maybe he just panicked and he didn't know how to process what was going on. That's I'm trying to make an excuse for him because this whole thing just comes across cowardly. Today, Mr. Poland told the public inquiry investigating the atrocity that he wished he had called the police much sooner. Thank damn God someone else was in there calling the police, because if he took an hour to call the police, he could have massacred not just 3 but all 26 kids, and he would have sat down there counting his money from his fare and watching his damn ITV shows. But instead, I did what I did through fear, shock and panic. Yeah, you fear, shock and panic, but how can it be fear, shock and panic when you went and picked up another person as part of your job? It makes no sense. These are human emotions which I couldn't control. I regret not helping the children. The screams were harrowing. Whoa, man, this is the face of a coward. He better try. He better get another job. Anyone sees him, they come and pick you up as a taxi driver. They'll be like, they'll shake their head like, you could have done something, man. Man, and I'm just gonna say this guy needs to sort himself out. The injury was shown. The inquiry was shown a statement of Mr. Poland. made to police around 6 hours after the attack. In it, he described the children's screams as terrifying and the most awful sound. An orchestra of blood-curdling screams filled the air, he told police. Screams after scream pierced my ears. The screams sounded like a mix of young and old, male and female. This was terrifying. I was in a state of complete mortal terror and shock. Yes, but you phoned your friend and picked up another person, then went home. That's as much shock as he. That's shock right there. They even called the police. And then I saw the mass huddle of children aged approximately 6 and 7 years old stumbling around in a panic hurry, and at a 34A Hart Street they were screaming. It was like a stampede for their lives. Despite this, Mr. Paul admitted he did not stop or call the police, but instead called his best friend, Julian Medlock, who worked in a garage and spray shop next to the dance studio because he was worried for his safety. It goes to show this guy's mind frame. He's messed up in the head. He's not an actual real human being. When you're a human being, what you do is put the youngest first. Like, I have a little brother. If there was something happening, I'll put him first. I'll go out before him, but before I go and start looking out for an old man. Because the children are the future and you need to look out for them first. I wouldn't go and look out for my best friend as an old ass man. Even though he would be my best friend, I'll make sure the kids are safe first. But he rang to make sure his friend was safe before he rang to report for the kids. That's mindset it's not quite right in the head there. Nicholas Most QC, counsel for the inquiry, questioned whether Mr. Poland was in fact in complete shock and pointed out that he had failed to ask Mr. Medlock if any children had been injured. This is what I'm trying to say. If police had been called or expressed any concern for the safety of the phone call, the outside observers listening to the exchange may pick up a sense of disbelief, but not mortal terror and shock as you described in your police statement, the barrister said. Outside observer might think the purpose of this call was more of a sort of a guess what happened to me. It was that this guy couldn't give a damn about those kids. Unless it was his children there, then he would give a damn. But Mr. Poland said that description was unfair and added, all I can say is I was in shock. I didn't know what was. I drove because I heard gunshots from a knife. Yes, okay. Where was this gunshots coming from? The guy had a knife on him. He also claimed that he accepted his next job, which came through to him via an app on his mobile phone, soon afterwards by accident. I took the job. I don't know why, he said. My head wasn't there. I didn't really know what I was doing. This guy's nuts, man. Miss Moses said, Mr. What happened there? Miss Moses said, Miss Poland even engaged in a mundane conversation with his female passenger, and when a police car sped past them, with its emergency lights flashing and sirens blowing, he remarked, "He's in a rush, isn't he?" Mr. Poland admitted that the police vehicle was likely speeding to the scene of. This guy, I can't read anymore. It's just upsetting me, man. I'm not gonna lie. I am literally upset that someone could be that incompetent in this world. Like, this guy's like a 56-year-old man. You wonder how these people get along in life and how they survive when they literal common sense just evades them. But you know, that's the way the world works. And I'm gonna show you something. I remember. This is something that happened like a couple years ago, but just watch and see what happens.
The families of the Uvalde victims have been fighting to see. Showing for the first time the horror which unfolded inside Robb Elementary School. Here, 18-year-old gunman Salvador Ramos strolls down the hallway. He walks towards the classroom where he will murder 19 children and 2 teachers. A young boy comes round the corner. He survives, scarred like so many by what he saw. 2.5 minutes later, the first police officers arrive. 2 approach the classroom, but soon retreat. Their colleagues hang back. They're joined by several more, carrying guns, wearing body armour, even ballistic shields.
Okay, so that guy has a ballistic shield on him. Okay. Now we're looking at about 5-6 officers here.
Training makes it clear they should confront the threat immediately. But in the absence of any apparent effective leadership, they don't. 56 minutes into the murderous rampage, another officer stops to get hand sanitizer.
This guy, he's so worried, not for the kids, for the cleanliness of his hands. And this is what I'm trying to say. We live in a strange... I feel like I'm living in a twilight zone sometimes. Like, there's a guy murdering children, and one guy in his taxi, he speeds off, he goes and takes his job. He couldn't give a damn about the children. He knew they're getting killed, but he just goes and takes off. These guys have guns, and they're even more cowardly than the taxi driver. This guy, he's so scared. He makes sure his hands are nice and clean. Like, make sure my hands are clean. It's unbelievable. Now this looks like there's a whole army here. This is one guy. Yes, he has an assault rifle, but it's one dude.
It's another 20 minutes before they finally enter the classroom and kill the gunman. For bereaved families, the video confirms an excruciating
20 minutes?
And deeply infuriating.
He could have ran through the whole school in that time. These people need to realise, man. It's like, remember that...
Infuriating timeline.
How many more kids have to die? How many before people start standing up? You think that, oh, this doesn't happen to me, or does...
The joke of it all is like, why I showed this, because those guys had guns. I remember they were saying like, oh, there's a bad guy with a gun, we need a good guy with a gun. And here we have it. These are the good guys with the guns. And they're cowards. Absolute cowards. They more care for the cleanliness of their hands than protecting the children that have been slaughtered and massacred. It's upsetting. It's crazy. But this is the twilight zone we're living in, where that happened, and then you got a guy who just decides to take his taxi fares. It's like, yo, and here's the joke about that guy. He took him to he dropped him off, and he didn't even get paid. To add insult to injury, he gets dropped off and he doesn't get paid. And he decides like, oh, he never paid me. Alright, I'm gone. So that means anyone could just not pay the taxi driver, right? Because that guy's such a coward, he didn't do nothing. Anyway, I'm out, man. That's my ramble for today. I was a bit upset when I read this guy. The whole thing, I just had to read it. I was watching the news and I was like, why is this guy making so much excuses? All he had to say is that you're a coward. That's all you had to say. You're a coward. You let the kids die. Luckily, hear me out, luckily, his actions didn't really result in anything dramatic, like foresight in hand. Whether he called 999 or not, he would have still killed those kids. No matter what. Luckily, someone did call 999. Because if we were waiting for him to do it, we would have been waiting for 50 minutes. He could have even come back the next day, had his breakfast, and then he'll call 999. He's like I don't know the word, but it's almost like he wanted something bad to happen, and he's like gloating like, hey, guess what I saw? Rather than, the poor kids. I mean, if it was his children there, I think he would have done things differently. And people only care about themselves these days. No one really cares about other people. I try to look out for other people, and you start to see the selfishness of people when you do try to look out for them. There's not many nice people out there in the world. And we starting to see a lot of the way the world's turning. It's like it's going through this. It's going through really dark times. We kind of had this time where we're going through this lack of common sense. We're bringing back the common sense, but then now the dark times are coming through. Anyway, like, subscribe, and I'm out.